on to our authors. Mr. Alfonso and Mr. Dion, will you come to the table, please? Let's give them a hand. I just love it. I just love it, love it, love it. I love the energy. I love the perseverance. And I met Dion in my writer's group, and he read my information. He said, "Hey, I was a foster kid." I said, "For real, I want to talk to you." And for like, what, 3 years, 2 years, we just emailed something. We're going to connect. We're going to connect. And we finally did it. And life tried to get in the way. He experienced a loss in his family this week. And we thought the funeral was going to be today. But thank God, it wasn't today. And he's still pushing. And he's going to tell you his story. But he's doing some awesome work. And I'm just excited to be able to work with you. I'll let the gentleman decide who's going to go first. So since we're now, one of our authors isn't here, and we were each going to take like 3 minutes, and also take more. Take what you need.
Yay.
Thank you very much. Again, my name is Dion Price. I want to first show my appreciation for anyone who works in the capacity of serving young people. I believe you cannot do this work sincerely, be it whether you're a teacher, instructor, parent, foster parent, counselor, coach, whatever your capacity is. If you don't have that sincere agape love, but the heart, like Ms. Evelyn has demonstrated over the last 30 years of her life's work, then something's not going to be sincere. You're not going to be as effective. So thank you, Ms. Evelyn, for what you do and what you represent. I appreciate you. And on behalf of all the former and current foster people like myself and others, we appreciate you and all you who opened up your hearts and your homes to young people. So thank you for that. Well, I'm too a product of a foster care parent, but a little background about me. I currently am working with the Treasure Island Job Corps, where we service quite a few of emancipated youth who have chosen to go on, and we service 16 to 24-year-olds. And I'm a career transition readiness instructor, where I get them prepared for their life after Job Corps, which is a residential program, which I have to say is currently the #1 rated center in the nation, which is phenomenal. So just 3 years ago, this center at Treasure Island was at the bottom of the bowl, so to speak. As of now, the last 3 months, out of 122 centers nationwide, the Treasure Island Job Corps right here in the Bay Area is ranked #1 in the nation. So that means that I got to give it a So also on a local note, I write a local column every other week for the Daily Republic called This Generation, speaking strictly to this generation of youth. And that column comes out, you can access it over the line, or if you reach the Daily Republic, you can do that. So that is part of my commitment to the youth services, which I've been involved in for the most of my adult life, 20 plus years, working in there. So what inspired me to reach young people was because of what I experienced as a young person. I'm a product of a substance abuse parent, and I'm the last of 9 children, and I was in Los Angeles, born and raised in what I believe is the worst time in history to be in Los Angeles, the heart of the crack epidemic, which is the heart. It was in the mid-'80s, and I was unfortunately going through high school, navigating through high school at the time. And now you can imagine the atmosphere of that environment was not healthy. We had basically winos on one side of the street, crackheads on the other. So you can imagine what my perspective of adults were. So me trying to get through high school at that time, just in the nick of time, I started to value my life, because I looked around and said, this is nothing healthy is going to come out of it. There's people dying at an alarming rate. The drug itself was very impactful, but on the side, it was also the drug wars and territorialism that also impacted the city. And mind you, at the time, the African-American dynamic of the family, most of the black males were already out of the picture. For one reason or another, there was no black males in the families. And here comes crack, went right after the black female, which really tremendously impacted the community. So what happened to those youth and those children? negative. And we are still, to this day, 20, almost 30 years later, are still suffering from that impact today. So that's what really emphasized me that this was something that needed to be changed. So as 11th grade, I said, listen, the bottom line is this environment, when the environment is out of control, you have to separate from it. So unfortunately, me going through this, I said, listen, if this is not healthy, I gotta get out of here. So I started to document what my trials were. And with an alcoholic parent, I didn't have the stability that I needed to navigate me through what I needed. So when these things started to occur, I started to say, listen, I have to get out of Los Angeles. How? I go to somebody's high school, somebody's army, somebody's college, something that propelled me out of this environment. And unfortunately, I had a brother up in the Bay Area at the time, and said, listen, just try to get yourself through this high school. I went to Dorsey High School in Los Angeles, which is one of the worst high schools in the area. We used to call it Ghetto High, and they called it Ghetto High. It was just one in the area, and incidentally, someone had the mascot for the school was called the Dons, but somebody had drew literally a roach with a football on top of the door. It was a roach with a football in the gym like this. So they literally called us the Dorsey Roaches. So I realized, look, you gotta get out of here. And not only did I have this to get me through it, but sometimes things tell me, there's one or two incidents that tell you, okay, you can survive, maybe I'll go to college somewhere locally, but there's some of the things that will happen to you that will say, you know what, this is it for you. And what happened was one morning, I was waking up, someone had broken my house, 3 o'clock in the morning. It was a crackhead that had broken my house. He was in the kitchen cooking an omelet like he lived there. I kid you not. I get in here, shocked. I said, man, if you don't get out of my house, I ended up running and chasing this kid down the street with my bare feet, right? And I was an athlete at the time. I was running like a 4 or 5 40, which is pretty fast. I could not catch this dude. But I don't think about, never underestimate the quickness of a crackhead. It's the truth. I couldn't catch this shit. But if I had caught him, it would have been all bad. I would have ended up in jail. And that's when it hit me like a ton of bricks. Dion, you got to get the heck out of LA. It's the bottom line. So 3 days after graduation, all my friends and everybody, hey, we're free. What are you going to do? I said, I don't know what y'all going to do, but I'm getting the hell out of LA. 3 days. So I took a backpack, everything I'm on. 18 years of my life was in a backpack about that big, and I came up to San Francisco and did not look back. Still have family, still have friends, my mom and everyone has moved up since, but I moved up here. And one of the first things I did was join a college fraternity, Phi Beta Sigma, and we started doing volunteer work in the communities of East Palo Alto and Hunters Point, and East Oakland. And that's when I found a knack for helping young people. Some of these people were suffering the same things that I was going through. So I connected right away, and I went back the next semester and changed my major to communication and youth development. And that's what I've been doing most of this. I ended up doing 10 years of youth probation, working in that capacity, doing 8 to 10 for YMCA's and Boys and Girls Club. So I've been able to tell some of these our stories and my trials, going through what my family has been through, and I've been able to communicate it to young people, and it's been a pretty good catalyst in my relative success of reaching young people by reaching them through their channels. And as far as our foster experience, unfortunately, as a young person, that kind of built me into this piece of project that I worked on called Greatest in Hell, which is a family dramedy that I'm going to share with you to be released in fall of 2011. And it has the backdrop of being experienced in substance abuse as well as going through a foster care system. My biggest experience with foster care was with after my mother had going through her trials, had an incident with my older sister who found out that she was pregnant at a young age, like 15 years old. And I'm in his front yard, and I come out, I hear the commotion as you would regularly in a substance abuse house with alcohol. Anybody know what a screwdriver is? That? Yeah, the drink screwdriver? Don't be shy. I know some of y'all know what a screwdriver is. It's vodka and what? Orange juice, right? So Mom used to drink those on a regular basis. Now vodka is clear. I had no idea that it wasn't anything other than orange juice. So for the longest time, I thought it was the orange juice that had her losing her mind. Until I was 12 years old, I remember my family's house. I said, "Yeah, you want some orange juice?" No, I'm slapping a lot of people here. I thought the orange juice had her losing her mind. And I'm over my uncle's house, and I'm going crazy over the orange juice. He said, "Look, if you pour one more thing of orange juice out of here, I'm going to choke it out of you." He said, "Something's wrong with this boy." But it's because I had no idea that it was that Russian vodka. So with her throwing back these screwdrivers, it got her very unstable. So when my sister went in and getting dropped the bomb and she was having this child, all hell broke loose, so to speak. And she runs out, and Mom took a Coke bottle that was glass back then. They don't make them plastic anymore, but back then. And went after her. Right? And next thing I know, she comes out of the house, my sister, with blood running through her hands, and it was all bad. It was a traumatic experience for me, and life would never be the same from that point. Because then the police came, and that was it. And I left my family. I was 5 years old at the time, and I'll never forget those scenes and that drama and what I felt at that time. So next thing you know, they led me away. They wouldn't let me speak to my mom at the time, so I'm gone. So I'm sitting there with, and I don't even know at this time whether it was the police department and the Child Protective Services, where they would not allow me to connect. And I hadn't seen my family. From that point, I was in and out of several foster cares for the next 2 to 3 years with very little contact with my original family. And in that time in Los Angeles, the foster care system wasn't that very sophisticated. And we were fearful of my older brothers and sisters of us getting lost. We hear it all the time, never hearing from their families again, because it was very unsophisticated. And you hear the abuse and all those stories, you hear all those stories. So my older brother, who was on his way to the army at the time, I'm sitting there with my brother who was close to me. And this young man was 20 years old. And he said and begged these people to let him take his younger brother to do something with him. He didn't have a home or whatever. I didn't know this at the time. But he picked up the phone and called every relative that we knew to say, "Please, let us do something. I will bring you money, whatever." And every time he answered the phone and the response, he would put that phone down. I could see the disappointment on his face, and I knew something was bad. He looked at us and said, I've never seen this man cry. He was like a rugged young man. And when he said there was nothing we could do, I felt his pain, that he couldn't do anything for us. They led us away. I started acting a fool, crying and having basically a mild fit. And feeling for this young man who couldn't do anything at the time. It was a very ugly scene. So there, I went through these foster. There was some that were good. All of them were not horrible. But there was some that was very, very interesting at the most. And it made me, gave me a different perspective of what real and true parenting is and what sincerity is for caring for young people. One particular foster parent that I connected with in a unique way, well, we'll call her Miss H. She was very special. And what was unique about her, she had a dog in the house. And the dog would come in every now and then, and he would do his business in the kitchen. I don't know why. He would dump in the middle of the kitchen floor. He was in our dog. And Miss H would pick up this fresh dog mess with her bare hands and dump it out. And me and my older brother was like, something's wrong with this woman. Of course, she would wash her hands thoroughly. She would wash her hands, of course. But from that point on, we would never allow her to touch us. Because once we saw that, those hands are never clean again. So her name was Miss H. When we saw that, we didn't call her Miss H. What do you think we called her? We called her Boo-Boo Lady. For the rest of her day, that's what we called this woman. And every time she would come up and touch us, we would petrify. And no one, and us, she touched you. No, she didn't, she touched you. You know how kids are. So we would traumatize each other. And she had us seeing counselors, thought we were deprived and of emotion and affection, and she really had us checked out. And we thought that wasn't nothing wrong with us, something wrong with you. Anybody pick up a dog? You don't want to need the counseling. So by the end, we stayed with her for about almost 2 years, until the last day when we really got to the point where one of our family members come pick us up. It was the happiest day of my life. They said, your older sister's coming to get you guys. And she came out and mad and said, we're going home right now. And the last thing she did was she walked up to me and said, I don't miss you, dear. She grabbed me by the face. I started screaming. I was screaming like somebody had stabbed me in the back. And she's like, what is wrong with this boy? So, needless to say, it was a traumatic experience for me. But other than that, those unique things, I tell that story and use it as a metaphor for our young people. When we talk about there's some things you can do that will have a stigma attached to it. And like picking up dog mess, yes, your hands are clean, but you have a stigma attached to it. Things like drugs and crimes that just leave a stigma attached to it. Even though you correct it, you have a mark on you that people will not forget. So I use that as a metaphor and speak to young people. So these type of things are what's in this offering of Raising Hell. And I always preliminate that I offer to use humor and hardship to tell stories. Because our environment, we have no control over the environment we live in. We have no control over the families that we are born into. But we do have the control over how we allow those environments to affect us. Okay? And I always use this illustration of nature teaching us these valuable lessons. Nature, if it's freezing degrees outside, we have to make adjustments to that environment, don't we? If we don't wear the proper clothing, we'll become a casualty of that environment, right? If it's 100 and something degrees, we got to adjust to that environment as well, don't we? We have to take off clothes. We have to adjust to that environment. Urban community teaches the same thing. If you're in the wrong neighborhood with the wrong color on, you may become a casualty of that environment. You have to adjust at all times. So it continues to grow with us. So I always share this story to let us know it's always time to adjust. And the environment is the illustration, almost similar to a boiling hot water. What is the environment of your home, a community, even a school? Let's consider that environment like a boiling hot water. There's 3 substances you can put in the boiling hot water. It will have 3 effects, won't it? You put an egg in that boiling hot water, what will happen in 3 to 5 minutes? Yeah, it'll get hard. It'll start to crack. Right? If you put a piece of vegetable in that boiling hot water, in 3 to 5 minutes, what will happen to it? It'll get soft. It'll start to break up. It'll get weak. You put one more substance in that boiling hot water. Try a coffee bean. You put that in that boiling hot water. Will it start to break? No, it won't break. It won't get soft. It won't get weak. It won't crack. Matter of fact, it won't affect the bean at all. But what it will affect, the bean will affect the blood. Right? It'll change the color. It'll change the smell. It'll change the taste. It'll change the texture. And that's what we try to be. You young people, or who you are, no matter what, the environment you're in, it could be a poor school, a disruptive family, a substance abuse family, you let that environment affect in the best way. You improve the quality of that environment. You make it better. You be that coffee bean. I try to honor that wherever I'm in. Whether I'm in a school, apartment, or the department, or any environment that I'm in, I try to improve on it and make it better. Everything that I got, I try to improve it. And I hope that resonates with most people, because we can't control every environment we're in. Our communities got better because people like you. So these type of things I'd like to share with people, and I wanted to close up with a little bit about literacy. And I like to share this because at my later age, I developed even a more passion for reading than I was when I was young. Excuse me. As a younger person, it was all television. Now we had 3 channels. You guys got 300 channels now. We only had 3 channels, and in my environment, most of it was on a black and white TV with the hangers and all that, and the knob was missing. And one way we had those knobs, I know some of you remember, we had pliers that we had in the knob that you had to stick on and change, right? And just when I wanted to watch something, somebody would lose the pliers. And this channel would be stuck on channel 9 watching Jimmy Swaggart or something while the Laker game is on. So unfortunately, I had to grow up and whatever it was on one of those 3 channels I had to watch. So we were all groomed on the same type of programming at that time, right? So we all came up with these substances. As we get older, you guys have, this generation has so many distractions, so many programs, and all of them are not healthy, that we don't have any sense of structure and culture anymore. And it really affects our ability to read, and the technology has improved on that to the point where it made us even more distracted. It's distracting. Our cell phones, our media, our internet, it's out of control, and it really takes away from the literacy of sitting down and reading. I tried to get my 17-year-old to read anything. It's almost like, it's amazing. All you have to do is read. It doesn't take much. We tried taking the television away one day a week. And you would think that it was like people, they were having drug withdrawal. They would start shaking, and I'm like, without TV, for one day, caused this type of a discomfort. So we stuck to that. And what I've learned is over the time that the reading helped me, being a left-handed person, I've developed that I don't have great short-term memory. But I learned that reading helped me improve my memory and my comprehension and concentration just by reading. Why? Because we're taking words and letters and turning them into words. Words are going into sentences, and it's really helping your overall muscle ability. So I really want to encourage everyone to really reinvestigate how beautiful it is to read and how we can improve on our lives and those things. Okay? Last time I leave you there, I'll let this brother have the table there, and I love to listen and learn, but I want to share this with you, an illustration again. The eagle in the chicken coop. This is the African fable, and I can share this with young people as well. There's an eagle up in the nest, and underneath the nest is a chicken coop, right? So up in the nest, the eagle and the mother eagle takes off and leaves to get something for the baby eagle, and she doesn't come back for some reason or another. So over time, the baby eagle up in the nest falls out and struggles, falls down into the chicken coop, and its impact cracks the shell. So all of a sudden, you got this baby eagle in all these chickens. So guess what? The baby eagle thinks he's a chicken. So he's walking around plucking like a chicken, looking ridiculous. But the chickens don't matter. They having fun with it, right? So over time, he takes on the characteristics of the chicken. Why? Because that's all he sees around him, right? So one time, this old school eagle flies by and says, "Why is this baby eagle in this chicken coop?" He flies down, so let's see what's really going on down here. So he says, "Baby eagle, why are you in this chicken coop?" And the baby eagle says, "I'm a chicken." "See, I'm a chicken." He says, "No, you're not a chicken. You can fly." And he says, "Chickens can't fly." He says, "I know, baby eagle, but you're not a chicken. You can fly." He said, "If you just leave me alone," he said, "Look, that old school said, look, if you just try to fly, I will leave you alone." So baby goes to the back of the cage and he takes off and he hits the edge of the chicken coop, but eventually he's flying. And he said, "Hey, old school was right. I'm flying." He's way up here, he's flying. His eagle eyesight kicks in and he doesn't go back to that chicken coop. What does that mean? What the heck? What does that chicken coop represent? Our communities, sometimes our mentality, telling us that all we can do is what we see in front of us. And like Ms. Evelyn said, reading those things can open up a whole world for you that you may not even realize, right? Those baby eagles are the young people in our community that have limited themselves by their mentality, thinking that all they can do is play sports or do some type of hustle to be successful. But that's what James Baldwin said. He who controls the image controls the mind. That's not true. You can fly, you can soar, and I wish you well. Thank you so much, everyone. I appreciate you. My name is Deon Price. If you're interested in this upcoming piece called Raise Your Hell, just give me your name and email address, and I will reach out to you. Thank you so much.
Heavenly mothers crying, sees her children are dying at the hands of the other child. I know her heart is breaking, I feel the earth is shaking. That rivers flow from the tears she cries. She cries, she cries. See Rachel's weeping for her children. Somehow,